Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third video installment of a brand new podcast in which we discuss Denver sporting news, we break down the games, and we talk about what's to come for the teams we love, all through the lens of a bettor. This is the Denver Dollar, and I am your host, Daniel Shalansky. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now, the date today is January 12th, 2021, and the Nuggets do have a game. They are ending their three-game road streak against the Nets in Brooklyn. That game will be played tonight, and the final odds have recently been posted, so now sorry for the delayed podcast, but that is the reason we are recording in the afternoon, right before the game. So remember, before you bet, make sure to listen to the numbers that I have to present. Now, some notes going into the game. The podcast today will be fully dedicated to the game today and the entire betting card. First, we will discuss the money line, then we will dive into the spread, and then the total for both the teams individually and for the game as a whole. After that, we will discuss some individual player props, and finally, we will finish the show with our special tip-off analysis. That's always really fun. You don't want to miss that. So far in the season, we're 7 of 10, and it's given us some pretty good insight onto which players and which team you can actually bet to score first. That's usually a bet that bettors stray away from. You know, some people consider it kind of random, but in actuality, it really is heavily correlated to who wins the tip-off. The team that has the ball first has every advantage to score first, and you know that's some quick analytics that we like to look at here on the Denver Dollar. Now let's dive into some notes before we dive into some numbers. For the Nets, they will again be without Kyrie Irving. He's missed the last several games due to personal reasons, but now he might be missing games due to COVID protocols. It was just yesterday that a video was posted on somebody's Instagram story regarding Kyrie Irving's sister's 30th birthday party. They appeared to be at a nightclub. There were a lot of people present, and including of those people was Kyrie Irving. Now, none of the people were wearing masks, and it's pretty much guaranteed. The league's been doing some investigations starting today, but it's pretty much guaranteed that he's going to miss some time due to COVID, in addition to the fact that he was already absent for unknown personal reasons. Now, a lot of beat reporters for the Nets and even just, personalities across the general media were trying to assign reasons as to why Kyrie Irving might be out. Now, he does have a history of not doing the most, not representing himself the best off the court. Beyond the flat earth theories, he hasn't always done the best for his team off the court and shown to be such a team player when they're not in the actual game. A lot of people, on ESPN and across other media networks were mentioning how they think Kyrie Irving, might just be out for reasons pertaining to the violence at the Capitol recently, or other reasons pertaining to his own mental health. People were trying not to read too much into it and were giving him the benefit of the doubt for the most part. However, the news, being released that he did attend his sister's birthday party and was partying, there were videos of him dancing, he wasn't wearing a mask, that has, kind of killed all of the people in the party of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Not that it matters anyway, he was already going to miss this game due to personal reasons, and now he will definitely be out for an extended period of time. So the Nets will be without arguably their most important playmaker, their second best player in Kyrie Irving. The Nuggets will again be without Michael Porter Jr. Just like Kyrie Irving, he has been out and about without masks, and he is also going to miss time due to COVID protocols. The Nuggets starting lineup is looking like it has been the past few games since Michael Porter Jr. has been out. It's looking like Jamal Murray and Gary Harris will be starting in the backcourt, with Will Barton on the wing and Paul Millsap and the Joker Nikola Jokic on the front court. The Nets starting lineup without Kyrie Irving looks like it'll be the same as it has been the past few games. Karis LeVert and Joe Harris at the guard positions, while Kevin Durant is starting at the wing, and Jeff Green and Jarrett Allen will be holding down the front court for the Nets. While both players are missing a key starter in their lineup, we have seen, them play the past few games without their full lineup due to these guys who, Kyrie was missing time because of personal reasons. Now he's going to miss time because of COVID, but Michael Porter Jr. is missing because of COVID. So we've already seen these teams have lineups without these guys for reasons pertaining to things off the court. Now let's dive into some numbers. Even with the absence of Kyrie Irving, one of the huge free agent acquisitions recently for the Nets, They're looking like a completely changed team with him being the lead playmaker on the court for the Nets. They are still the favorite despite the fact that he is absent. Right now, the money line is looking like Brooklyn is locked in at minus 114, while Denver is locked in at minus 106. Before I tell you which way I think that will go, I want to talk about the three-way money line, which I always, root for. I always tell you to bet in favor of the three-way money line instead of the normal money line. You're always going to get better odds. Again, the three-way money line is at the end of the fourth quarter. It's not the full game. So what that means is it accounts for a tie. You're either betting on a team to win, you're either betting on a team to win through four quarters, or you're betting on a tie, which let me tell you some math as to why you shouldn't do that. Throughout, there have been 150 NBA games this season. And of those 150 games, only 7 of them have gone into overtime. That means that every 1 out of every 21.42 games has gone into overtime. Now, let me tell you why you shouldn't bet on a tie. Not only should you not bet on a tie ever through 4 quarters just because overtime is exceedingly unlikely, you're going to get bad value if you bet on a tie. A tie in the three-way money line right now is locked in at plus 1,400, which, a lot of games do go into ties. Yeah, especially if you've been watching Nuggets basketball, about 20% of Nuggets games have gone into ties. But if you look at the numbers, the value is not even remotely there. Considering the fact that 1 out of every 21.42 games have gone into overtime, you would need a value of plus 2,142 to return the value on the likelihood that the game is going into overtime. But you're getting just less than 2/3 of that at plus 1,400. Not only is it very unlikely that any game will go into a tie, but you're not even remotely returning the value of what would be a high risk, high reward bet. You're not getting as high of a reward as you should be. That is why instead of betting on the normal money line, you can bet against a tie in this game and bet on the three-way money line. If you want to take the Nuggets in this game, you're locked in at plus 108 on the three-way money line versus minus 106 on the normal money line. That is way better value. In addition to that, if you look at Brooklyn, they're locked in at minus 114 for the normal money line. But if you're so inclined to bet on the Kyrie Irving-less Brooklyn Nets, then you're locked in at plus 100 on the three-way money line versus, again, I just said minus 114. That is still way better value. Now I'm going to make a prediction here as to which team I like, and I like the Denver Nuggets. That is because, despite the fact that they're on this road series, they've won all of the games on this road series. Granted, they haven't had the most difficult of matchups, but they've shown to be very effective. A lot of their shooters that have been struggling, i.e. Gary Harris, have been really stepping it up, and their confidence looks a lot better. I like the Nuggets in the money line. I like the Nuggets against the spread, but you're getting better odds with the money line. So I'm not even going to tell you the odds of the spread. If you like Brooklyn, then you can bet on the spread, considering the fact that they're at -1. The spread is only 1 point. Denver +1, Brooklyn -1. You're getting better odds with the Brooklyn spread than the Brooklyn money line. The Brooklyn money line is minus 114. The Brooklyn spread is minus 106. So if you are so inclined to bet on Brooklyn, you can bet on the spread over the money line. But paramount to all of those bets, the best one and the best value that you're going to get if you want to bet on Brooklyn, despite the fact that they're missing Kyrie Irving, is also in the three-way money line at +100. Now, the total over-under for points scored in this game is 230.5, and that is very lofty. That's the highest over-under we've seen in any Nuggets game this season. The over is locked in at -112, and the under is locked in at -109. I like the over, and let me tell you why, despite the fact that it is so lofty and so high at 230.5. The Brooklyn Nets on the season are the third highest scoring offense. They're averaging 118.5 points per game. Denver, on the other side of the ball, is the fifth highest scoring offense. They're scoring 116.5 points per game. Obviously, if you add those, you're looking at 235 total points per game between the two teams. Now, in addition to that, they are both, pretty lackluster on defense. I've been kind of ripping on the Nuggets defense throughout the season. They're 21st in total defensive ranking, and they're 21st in points allowed, allowing 112.8 points per game. The Nets are just slightly worse than them, but that means that their defense is even worse than them. They're allowing 113 points per game. That puts them at 22nd in the league. Well, if you add those, you're only looking at 225.8 total points in this game, just based on the defensive points they're allowing. Neither team has necessarily faced an offensive juggernaut like each other yet in this young season. The Brooklyn Nets have not played as high scoring of a team as the Denver Nuggets, and the Nuggets certainly have not played as high scoring of a team as the Nets. That's why I think those defensive rankings are a little bit unfair, and I think that they're going to allow more points than those defensive rankings are given. I think that they might even average or get more points in this game than they're averaging on the season, considering the fact that they haven't played as bad of defenses as each other either in this young season. Not only that, but in the last 5 games, the Nuggets have hit this mark of 230.5 in 3 out of their last 5 games. Same goes for the Nets in their last 5 games. They've hit this mark of 230.5 in also 3 of their last 5 games. Well, you're getting slightly worse value with the over at minus 112 versus minus 109 for the other. I think the difference is so small that it's negligible, and I would bet on the over, considering the fact that I like the Nuggets in the money line, considering the fact that I like the over, and I can feel pretty confident about both of those. I like the parlay that is combining the Nuggets money line with the over, and the odds there are locked in at plus 265. That's really good value on this parlay. It's, kind of crazy to me that the Nuggets are even underdogs in this game. I would capitalize that and combine that in tandem with another bet that I'm confident in, which is the over. Again, you're locked in at plus 265, which is very good value. Now diving into individual team over-unders total points, they're both set at 115.5. That means you're going to get a little bit worse odds if you bet the Nets on the over, considering they're favored to win by 1 point, but the difference is also negligible there. The Nuggets on the over of 115.5 total points in this game is minus 110, whereas the under is minus 118. Not only are they averaging more than that on the season by, almost like a full point, but in addition to that, you're getting better odds with the over at minus 110. This is a bet I like, and this is not a bet that I would stray away from. On the Nets side of the ball, I also think that they hit the over, and you're locked in at minus 115 for the over, but considering the fact that I do think the Nets lose in this game, and if the Nuggets do cover, they won't cover by much. That is why I don't think you can bet on the Nets to score more or to score less. You're not getting great value at either, with minus 115 being locked in for the over for the Nets, and minus 113 being locked in for the under for the Nets. I would stay away from that. But the best value across any of those is the Nuggets on the over at minus 110, and that is the most likely one of any of those 4, I believe, to hit. Now let's dive into some individual player statistics. For the Nuggets, I'm going to discuss every single stat available on the BetRivers card that you are able to bet on. And for the Nets, I will discuss Kevin Durant's stat line, considering he is the star of the team, and I will discuss other bets that I like, varying across the other players on the Nets. Now, Jamal Murray. He is set at 22.5 points in this game. On the season, he's averaging 19.7. So there is a pretty big difference there. But there is good enough value with the over on 22.5 points that I would absolutely feel confident and good about taking this bet due to the fact that the value is absolutely there. The over is locked in at plus 116, while the under is locked in at minus 141. The reason I like the over is because this is the highest predicted scoring game that the Nuggets have played in this season. And considering he's averaging just less than that mark of 22.5, if this game is truly is as high scoring as I predict and Vegas predicts, then he's likely to exceed that mark, and you're getting excellent value at plus 116. Now for assists, he's looking at 4.5 assists in this game, and he's looking at 3.5 rebounds in this game. Well, I do like the fact that he's averaging under on both of those. I wouldn't necessarily bet on both of those. The reason being that he's predicted 4.5 rebounds in this game. He's locked in at plus 110 for the over, minus 134 for the under. He's only averaging 4 on the season, so he's very likely to hit the under in this game, but you're not getting good enough value or good enough return on value at minus 134. Looking at the assists category, he's averaging close to 3.5, not quite, but you're not getting good enough value with the over and the under, and if this game is as truly high scoring as the experts predict, I think that he would exceed that mark. You're looking at minus 134 for the over on assists, even though he's averaging below that on the season. I would expect him to get over, and you're not getting good enough value. Another bet that I do really like for Jamal Murray is for him to exceed 2.5 3-pointers made in this game. Now, not only is he averaging 2.4, so between every game, it's been kind of a toss-up whether or not he will get 2 or 3-pointers or even more than 3-pointers in that game. The value is there if you want to bet on the over. He's locked in at plus 115 for the over on 2.5 3-pointers. Again, he's averaging 2.4 on the season. And if this game is as high scoring as everyone thinks, I think he's even more likely to exceed that mark of 2.5. Now let's stay looking at the backcourt and dive into Gary Harris's stats that are listed on BetRivers. He's predicted 10.5 points in this game. Now he is averaging less than that. He's averaging 10.2 on the season, but as of late, he has really stepped it up in the scoring category. Not only that, you're getting bad value on the over at minus 134. With a high scoring game likely, and with the fact that he's been stepping it up, I would expect him to get over that mark of 10.5. He's very close to that on the season at 10.2, but again, you're getting bad value at minus 134. The other stat available for Gary Harris is 1.5 3-pointers made. Now, I'd mentioned Jamal Murray's. I'm going to talk about Gary Harris's, which I do like this bet, but there's another one later on that if you're going to bet on any Nuggets player to exceed their over-under in 3-pointers, I would look at Paul Millsap. So, while the value is there for Gary Harris at plus 120, he's set at 1.5 3-pointers in this game. The over is plus 120, the under is minus 148. He's only averaging 1.1 on the season, but in the past 2 games, he's exceeded that mark of 1.5, and not only that, he's been shooting more 3-pointers and shooting the 3-pointer at a better clip in this high-scoring game. I do like him to exceed that mark, and plus 120 is good value. Now, looking at the starting wing in the absence of Michael Porter Jr. for the Denver Nuggets, let's talk about some Will Barton stats. I don't like any of these Will Barton stats. There's one that I think is potentially questionable, and that is his 3-pointers. He's projected 1.5 3-pointers in this game. He's making slightly under that on the season, but he's averaging actually a lot under that on the season. He's only averaging exactly one 3-pointer. But you're getting not such a bad value if you bet on the under. Sure, it might be a high-scoring game, but he's only averaging 1 on the season, and the value on the under is only minus 115. I don't necessarily hate that, but there are other better bets that I like if you want to bet on individual Nugget players to exceed a certain stat line. He's projected 13.5 points in this game. Not only is he averaging way less than that, you're getting bad value at minus 129. I would stay away from that bet. He's averaging 3 assists on the season. He's projected 3.5 assists in this game. Now he has, been kind of seizing a lot of playmaking opportunity, much to the chagrin of us Nuggets fans. The ball seems to die in his hands. He might make a pass and it might be unselfish even if he has somewhat of a basket, but it's usually to the guy that isn't the most open on the court for the Nuggets. I don't necessarily like him to exceed that mark of 3.0, but it is very well within, or 3.5, but it is very well within the realm of possibilities. And you're getting good value on the over at plus 125. I wouldn't be so scared of that bet, but beware, because it is unlikely that he does get over 3.5 assists. The only reason I wouldn't be so scared of it is that the value is really good. In terms of rebounds for Will Barton, he is projected 5.5 in this game. He's averaging 4.5 on the season. It's fairly likely that he gets the under, but you're getting terrible value at minus 159. Do not bet on Will Barton to secure any number of rebounds. Now, this is the guy I was talking about. Let's talk about Paul Millsap. I like a lot of different Paul Millsap bets in this game. I'm going to start with his points. He's averaging 10.9 points on the season, and he's set at an over-under of 10.5 in this game. The over is locked in at tremendous value of plus 105, considering the fact that he's averaging over that on the season. In this high-scoring contest, or what we think will be a high-scoring contest, I think that's a relatively safe bet with a relatively high reward. I like Paul Millsap to score more than 10.5 points, and I love it at the value of plus 105. Now, the other one that I really like for Paul Millsap is for him to exceed 1.5 three-pointers in this game. On the season, he's averaging 1.4, and he had 2 in the last game. Between games, he's kind of been teeter-tottering between that 1 and 2 mark, but he is averaging 1.4 on the season. Now, get this, despite the fact that he's only averaging 0.1 three-pointers less than he is projected, or less than his over-under is set for this game, if you take the over, you're getting the best value across any individual player's stat lines at plus 190. This is a bet I love at the value that is being presented. Plus 190 for Paul Millsap to secure at least 1.5 three-pointers. That means 2 three-pointers in this game. I love that bet. Now, let's talk about the Joker, Nikola Jokic, the man himself, the man who we all think should be up there in the MVP race as Nuggets fans. He's projected 24.5 points in this game. He is averaging 24.4 on the season. I would stay away from this considering you're not getting great value on either end, the over being locked in at minus 104, the under being locked in at minus 118. If I had to bet on this one, I would take the over, but again, it's very, it's a toss-up with whether or not he will score more than that 24.5 mark, and you're not getting good value with either. The over is only minus 104 again, and the under is only minus 118 again. Now, one that I do like is for Nikola Jokic to secure at least 1.5 three-pointers in this game. That means for him to hit 2 three-pointers in the game. He's averaging 1.3 on the season. So, well, he is very close to that mark of 1.5, you're getting good value at plus 125 for the over. Well, I would normally tell you to hound that bet. It sounds very good. He's very close to that mark, and you're getting exceedingly good value at the over. It doesn't even compare to what I just presented in terms of Paul Millsap's total three-pointers. Not only does Nikola Jokic average slightly less three-pointers per game than Paul Millsap, you're getting not as good a value at plus 125 versus plus 190. It's not a bet that I'd necessarily stay away from, but there are better bets in terms of betting on certain Nuggets players to score three-pointers in this game. Now, in terms of assists, he is only projected 7.5 assists in this game. That means that the value on the over is tremendously skewed considering the fact that he's averaging 10.4 on the season. You're locked in at minus 155 if you want to bet on the over of Nikola Jokic securing more than 7.5 rebounds. Now, while the value isn't great at minus 155, it is way better than his season average reflects versus what the game projected total for Nikola Jokic assists are in this game. Well, it is low risk, low reward at minus 155. I think the risk is lower than the reward in this sense. I think that mark should be even worse. I think it should be even more skewed. So it's not as good a value as we like and as the other bets that I'm talking about, but it's relatively safe and it's not the worst value at minus 155. Now, in terms of rebounds for Nikola Jokic, he's averaging 11.2 on the season. In this game, he's projected 11.5. But he's secured more than 11.5 rebounds in only 4 out of the 10 games this season. That means if you bet the under, you're getting good value at plus 107. He's averaging less than that on the season. He's been getting less than that in the last few games, and you're getting better value with the under. That is a bet I like for Nikola Jokic. On the Nets side of the ball, I said I would dive into KD's full stat line, and here we go. He's projected 30.5 points in this game, with the over locked in at plus 102 and the under locked in at minus 124. Well, the over looks like good value. He's only averaging 29.3 on the season. Yes, with the absence of Kyrie Irving, you can expect him to even boost that just a little bit, but I don't like the value at plus 102. I think there are definitely worse bets, and I wouldn't necessarily completely stray away from it, but I think there are better bets even pertaining to KD's stat line. One bet that I like for him, I'm talking about this kind of discrepancy in three-point shooting. I like it for Kevin Durant as well. Yes, he's only averaging 2.4 three-pointers on the season, but he's projected 2.5 in this game. If you bet the over, you're locked in at plus 115, and if they are to win, you would expect him to be shooting a lot of three-pointers. So you're getting great value And I can expect him, I do genuinely think he will exceed that mark of 2.5 3-pointers in this game. Another one that I really like for him is total assists. He's only averaging 4.7 assists on the season, and you might think that with the absence of Kyrie Irving, he would step it up in the playmaking category. But with the insertion of Caris LeVert into the starting lineup, he has really assumed the lion's share of the work that Kyrie Irving was doing as the playmaker, and he's really assumed the lion's share of the work that Kyrie Irving has done distributing the ball. That means I don't expect to see that big of an uptick in terms of KD's total assists, and he's averaging way less than his mark of the projected mark of 5.5 assists in this game. That means I would expect him to hit the under of 5.5 assists, and you're getting tremendous value at plus 116 for the under versus minus 150 or 141 for the over. I like Kevin Durant to get under 5.5 assists, especially at the value that is plus 116. Now, I don't want to bet on his rebounds. He's averaging more than 6.5 rebounds in this game, which he is projected. He's averaging 7.0, but you're getting terrible value with the over at minus 148. I would stay away from that. Now, here are the other bets that I like. I like Caris LeVert to get over 7.5 assists in this game. It's going to be high scoring, and again, he is generally the distribution guy when Kyrie Irving is not on the floor. Now, he is averaging less than that per season on the season, but in the few games that Kyrie Irving has missed, he's been well above that mark of 7.5 assists that he has projected in this game. The over is locked in at plus 130, which means you're getting tremendous value for something that we can expect to happen, considering the fact that he's been doing it without Kyrie Irving on the floor. The other bet that I like on the net side of the ball is Joe Harris to get more than 12.5 points in this game. Now, this one I think is it's relatively low risk, low reward, but just like I said with Nikola Jokic to get more than 7.5 assists, it's something that we can expect to happen, and the value isn't as bad as it probably should be. Joe Harris is projected 12.5 points in this game, but he's averaging 14.4 on the season, and we've only seen that number be way larger than 12.5 with the absence of Kyrie Irving. I expect him to hit the over, and the over is locked in at minus 148. That's not terrible value. It's not the best value, but it's not terrible value considering that this is an exceedingly likely thing to happen in this game. That is it for individual player props. Let's dive into Nugget player specials. Player specials are when you bet on a player to exceed a certain number in total assists, rebounds, and points. Now, for the Nuggets, I did looked at Jamal Murray, I looked at Nikola Jokic, I looked at Gary Harris, I looked at Paul Millsap, and I looked at Will Barton. I didn't think the value was there for any of them except for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Now, let's talk about Jamal Murray. Combined, he's averaging close to 27, 28 total points and assists and rebounds all stacked up. But we can expect him to have a higher scoring game in this game than he's had in the past. They're playing a good Nets team even without Kyrie Irving. And the game, neither team plays great defense. You can expect, the scorers to score in this game. I think he might exceed that mark of 31.5 just on points alone. We've seen him do that in the past recently. So I really like him to exceed that mark of 31.5 combined counting stats. Now, the reason I really like it is because you're locked in at plus 110 for the over, only minus 134 for the under. I like the over, especially at the value that you are given. Let's talk Joker. He is set at 43.5 in this game. On the season, we've seen a little bit of a downtick recently, but that's only due to the fact that Nikola Jokic did not need to play the full game and did not need to exert full effort when they played against the 76ers and when they played against the the New York Nets, the New York Knicks. In fact, Nikola Jokic barely played in the fourth quarter at all. If this game is even a remotely closer game, which Vegas projects with the spread only being 1 point in favor of the Nets, you can expect Nikola Jokic to be on the court even more often. If Nikola Jokic is on the court more often, then he will not continue to regress like we've seen in the past few games. In fact, on this season, he's averaging close to 47 total combined points, assists, and rebounds. In this game, he's only projected 43.5, which means you can expect the over to hit. Sure, you're getting slightly worse value than the under at minus 115 versus plus 106, but this is a relatively safe bet without bad value. This is a bet that I do like. Talking about double-double threats in this game, I think that Nikola Jokic and Jarrett Allen will both get double-doubles. Now, the value on Nikola Jokic, as it has been throughout the season, considering the fact that he's got a double-double in every single game this season, the return of value is terrible if you are willing to bet on Nikola Jokic to get a double-double. However, Jarrett Allen, who is also averaging a double-double on the season, sure, he hasn't gotten it with the consistency that Jokic has. He hasn't quite gotten it in every game, but he's averaging a double-double on the season, and he's getting tremendous value at plus 110 to secure a double-double. In this game, he's projected 12.5 points and 10.5 rebounds in terms of the over-unders set by Bet Rivers. So considering what they expect, I think the value is worth it for him to secure a double-double at plus 110. Now, the triple-double threat, the only consistent triple-double threat that we will ever talk about is Nikola Jokic. Sure, when they played against the Mavericks, we discussed Luka Doncic very briefly, but Nikola Jokic is the only guy other than Russell Westbrook that is averaging a triple-double in this league. In fact, he's the only player since Oscar Robertson to score at least 200 points, secure 100 assists, and 100 rebounds in any team's first 10 games of the season. That means he's averaging over 20, he's averaging over 10, and he's averaging over 10. He's easily securing an average of a triple-double on the season. Now, he has only gotten a triple-double in 4 out of 10 games on the season, but 3 of those games, he only fell 1 rebound short. In 3 of those games, he had 9 rebounds, and that last rebound would have carried him over the triple-double mark. For these, reasons being that he's almost getting one every game, and he's, averaging it on the season, so when he doesn't get it, he's super close to getting the triple-double. I think you can bet on Nikola Jokic to get a triple-double in this game, and let me tell you why. The value is plus 250 if you bet on that, considering the fact that he's only getting it in he's getting a triple-double in 4 out of 10 games. You can bet on that alone, considering that it's plus 250. But what that stat doesn't tell is how close he was in those games he didn't get it. Again, 3 of those games he fell 1 rebound short. While it is relatively unlikely that Nikola Jokic gets a triple-double, just floating some numbers around in my head, I would say it's like he's gotten it in 4 out of 10 games. I would say it's like a 45% chance he gets one, considering he's averaging it, and the other games he fell, so short. He got a few rebounds stolen from him from Will Barton. I think, that was closer than the stats say. So, while I do think he's around 45% likely to get a triple-double, you're getting a great return of value at plus 250. Again, it's slightly unlikely that he does get one, but the value is absolutely there for you to take this bet. Now let's dive into that patented tip-off analysis that we love talking about. On the season, I am 7 of 10 in predicting who will win the tip-off. Well, the team who secured the tip-off didn't necessarily always score the first point. The reason that they secured the tip-off, that means that they had every advantage to score the first points in that game. Nikola Jokic on the season is 6 of 10, but in those 4 losses, we've seen him struggle to taller, lankier guys such as Jarrett Allen. He lost to DeAndre Ayton, he lost to Willie Cauley-Stein. Those guys are 7 feet tall, just like Jarrett Allen. Well, he has won 60% of the tip-offs on the season. Let me talk about why Jarrett Allen poses a legitimate threat. We didn't dive back into every single Jarrett Allen game, but in his last 3, Jarrett Allen has won 2 of his last 3 tip-offs. Those wins were over guys like Joel Embiid and Jonas Valanciunas. Both of those guys are 7 feet tall and arguably more athletic than Nikola Jokic. Now, Jarrett Allen is the same height as Jokic, but he has more bounce. I like Jarrett Allen to win this tip-off. That means I like the Nets to score first. And at minus 120, I think that's a pretty good value and something that you can bet on. That 100 minus 20 is considering the fact that the Nets are favored to win, and that the Nets have, a bunch of abundant shooters and scorers on their team. So a lot of the odds don't reflect, it might reflect that some people think that Jarrett Allen will win the tip-off, but the odds don't entirely reflect the fact that people are confident that Jarrett Allen will win the tip-off, like we are here on the Denver Dollar. I like that bet at minus 120 for the Nets to be the first scoring team in this game. Again, we are 7 of 10 on this season in terms of who will win the tip-off. Well, a lot of analysts might consider that really an extraneous stat that people don't really care about. On the Denver Dollar, we love looking at the tip-off, and it does yield some good value in other bets. Now, if you want to bet on individual players to score first, I wouldn't recommend that you bet on every single Nets player to score first, because if you're losing a lot more money if the Nuggets do somehow steal the ball, and if the Nuggets do somehow steal the ball and score the first points, or if they miss and then the Nuggets score, it's very likely that the Nuggets score at minus 120. It's worth it, but if you were to bet on every single Nets player, it wouldn't necessarily be worth it. There are some Nets players that I think you can bet on, and in fact, I think you can bet on two of them. Kevin Durant is locked in at plus 475. He has the best odds of anyone in this game to score the first points, and I also like Caris LeVert at plus 700. Now, those are both pretty lofty. You put down $10 on Kevin Durant, you walk away with $75.50, or not 75, with 57. Might be dyslexic, with $57.50, including the $10 that you initially put down. For Caris LeVert, if you put down $10, you're walking away with $80, including the $10 you put down. Now, if you bet $10 on both of them, you are still getting a hefty payout if one of them hits. I like the idea of betting on both of them. That is going to wrap up the show for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. And like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and continue listening to the Denver Dollar. Thank you so much.